Hey friends, Christopher J.H. Jones here. I want to talk for a second about airplanes, which may seem like a kind of a strange thing to talk about for in a book where airplanes are not prominently featured, or at a time in American history when airplanes are not especially important. It is true that we're not doing a lot of commuting by airplane in 1920, but it's not true that there's no airplanes in the sky. In fact, World War I advances airplane technology rather significantly, and by the middle of 1920 and early 1921, you're having air shows, experimental aircraft, and lots of people trying to get pilot's license, including a few women, although not very many. Everybody will be familiar with Amelia Earhart, of course. Amelia Earhart, however, doesn't come on the American aviation scene until the late 1920s. In the early 1920s, it's a whole different group of people, none of whom ever became famous in quite the same way that Amelia did, possibly because they didn't disappear on their attempt to circumnavigate the globe. One of my favorites is a gal named Pancho Barnes. That's not actually her name, but she goes by that. And she is an immensely colorful figure, one of the great women of aviation in the first part of the 1920s. She lives in Los Angeles, and she will be a competitor. She'll show up in a book coming up here in one of the Trinity Flynn novels. She and a bunch of other women will participate in a cross country race, um, including, of course, Trinity Flynn. On this cross country race, there will be, of course, the usual skullduggery and even probably a murder, because that's the way these things go. But these kinds of things happened a lot in the 1920s. All kinds of people were involved in air races, and especially long distance ones, where a solo pilot would take off from the East Coast, say, and barnstorm their way all the way across the United States, hitting point to point and being timed for how long it took them to arrive at those places, timed by telegraph and um, the clocks and whatever the destination was that they reached. You'd have to fix your own airplane along the way, of course, and those airplanes broke down on quite a regular basis. So all of these women and the men who also performed similar kinds of feats were not only excellent aviators, they were terrific mechanics, they were intrepid explorers, and um, some of the most interesting characters in American history. Much of this has been lost to us. We have airplanes in so many places doing so many different kinds of things now that the idea of air travel is no longer really exciting to us. In fact, we find ourselves complaining about the lines in our airports or the intrusive pat downs by the security personnel. So Trinity Flynn sort of transports us back to a time when this was all brand new, and the concept that somebody could get in an airplane and end up hundreds, even thousands of feet above the earth was shocking and amazing and breathtaking. If you've ever been up in a small plane, you know what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, strongly recommend the experience. It's really unbelievable. And to go up in an open cockpit biplane, something which I still personally have never done, well, that just sounds like about the most fun a person could have at any given moment. Anyway, a lot of aviation in Trinity Flynn and the Five Points Gang, and also in the short story collection, The Bones Stand Up, in which we have an opportunity not only to visit an air show with Trinity and Sebastian, but also to go with Sebastian as he duels the enemy in World War I over the skies of Belgium and northern France, as so many pilots did, even American pilots, during the years before the United States decided to get into the war. So if you're looking for some history that's got some teeth to it, based on real things that really happened, look no further than the Trinity Flynn series and pick up a copy of The Bones Stand Up, especially The Memory of Air, which is the Trinity and Sebastian story that takes place at the air show. I think you'll enjoy it.